Hey guys, how are you? Thibodeaux. So glad to have you guys here. Hey, I apologize about the weird room today, but I am at a school. Many of you guys may know in the state of Arizona, lots of our teachers are on strike, and because of that, schools around the Valley of the Sun are they don't have any teachers to teach their kids, and so my kids' sports company, Shape. As you can see, we've been called to run emergency camps, and so I'm at one of my schools right now running an emergency camp. But I still wanted to make sure this training happens, so I'm taking a little bit of break from running a camp right now. And I jumped into their classroom, and I apologize that the quality of the broadcast may not be as good, but the quality of content hopefully is really good. Hey, what I want to do today is I want to just do a quick little training. So many of you guys know that GDPR is coming up, and May 25th is the huge day. GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. Many of you guys have been watching what has happened with Facebook, and some of the issues that went around with a breach of content delivery. And so the feds are sort of cracking down a little bit. And now the GDPR is going to start in Europe, and then it'll make its way around the world. But many of us, we work with people all around the world, and people purchase our stuff from all around the world. So if you do any type of online marketing, you got to be GDPR regulated, because if anyone from Europe is on your list, then you could get in trouble, and the fines are pretty hefty. And depending on who you ask, they range anywhere from $25 to $25,000 for an incident. So you really need to be GDPR compliant. And with that being said, this is where you got to put your big boy, big girl pants on. Okay, this is where, as an entrepreneur, you can't afford to buck the system here. And so because the way that this is going to be working is, people are going to be looking to make money off of this. Okay, so what's going to happen is people will red flag you, they'll fine you, and people behind the scenes figure out ways to make money. So you don't want to attempt to try to just sort of slide under the radar or whatever. And so now I don't in any way, shape, or form claim to be an expert on this. Now I've done a lot of research on this. I've read tons and tons of articles, but I found today what I believe is the best article and interview that I've ever seen on the topic. And when I'm done with my teaching today, I'm going to go ahead and give you a link to that so you can watch that interview in its entirety. It's from a guy by the name of Brad Klink. He was interviewed by Amy Porterfield. He's an intellectual property lawyer for entrepreneurs. And so most of this information I'm giving you today comes from him. So it's not me. So let me just give you full disclosure on this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to give you advice. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to protect you a little bit as an entrepreneur and tell you to get ahead of the curve, because a lot of these things you're going to be doing, it's really, really going to impact you and affect you. Now, with that being said, what I can tell you is, Jeff, the GDPR is a global. It's a global regulatory service. It is not a United States service. Okay, and so the internet world has no boundaries. There's no legal boundaries. So it's not a U.S. thing. It's not a Europe thing. It's whatever. The EU, the European Union, is putting this in place. And so just as Canada, okay, so Canada has a rule that when you have anybody from Canada on your list, you have to do a 2-step opt-in form for people in Canada. Okay, and Canada is its own country. They've got their own rules, and so they can come down hard on you. Trust me, they can do that. And so I just want to protect you guys. So I'm just going to give you some information today, and let's just follow along. Now, once again, GDPR stands for General Data Regulation Program. Okay, and this regulation goes into effect May 25th, 2018. And what it is, it's an effort to understand. It's an effort to make marketers understand why they have people in their email database, and ensuring that you are using that email database responsibly and not using it in a way that the person who opted in ever intended it. Okay, so that's sort of what the deal is. Okay, so the GDPR applies to the processing of any type of personal data. Our world is changing rapidly, and they're going to be trying to protect our personal data, your data, my data. We saw something like this happen maybe 15 years ago with the telemarketing world. It used to be with cell phones. Everybody would try to get your cell phone and try to get your landline, and then telemarketers would just bombard you like crazy. And then George Bush and his staff put in what's called the do not call list, okay, that said anybody in North America, or at least in the United States of America, if you're on that do not call list, then nobody can call you. It was an attempt to protect yourself, okay? So what type of data are they trying to protect? They're trying to protect names, email addresses, physical addresses, and IP addresses. Okay, that's those are the big four. What they're trying to protect: names, email addresses, physical addresses, and IP addresses. Okay, and this information typically gets collected through some kind of analytical program, whether it be Google Analytics or Facebook Analytics or some type of analytics. This information gets collected from them, and what the GDPR is saying is hold on a second, we don't mind that information getting collected, but we want the user to know about it, and we want the user to be able to give consent for that. And as long as they give consent, then you can do whatever you want. But if they don't give consent, then you can't. Okay. So in addition to names, email addresses, physical addresses, and IP addresses, it also includes any type of processing and information that you're adding to your contact database. So many of us have a list. In fact, for many years, people say if you don't have a list, you don't have a business, okay? List, build. Well, that's going to sort of come crashing down here because you're not, as I'm going to show you in a minute, you're not going to be allowed to have anybody in your list that doesn't want to be in your list, okay? And how many of you guys, like me, I probably get 200 to 300 emails every single day from lists that I'm on, and to be quite honest with you, I don't really want to be on their list, and I don't want to have to manually go unsubscribe, so I just deal with it, okay? Well, what this is saying is that you can't have that any longer, okay? So the GDPR, now who does this apply to? The GDPR is going to apply to any relationship or transaction, whether commercial or free, where one or more parties involved resides in the EU. Okay, so now remember, London is doing the Brexit. Okay, so before too long, London's not going to count. But if you're anywhere else in the European Union and you have any of those people on your email database, that's a big deal. Okay, and it's important to know that it's not based on citizenship. It's based on where they are when you are interacting with them as well. So they actually may live in North America, but they may be on a trip to Paris. Okay, and they're in the EU, and they're watching your Facebook Live or whatever, and so it depends on where they are at the time, not necessarily their citizenship, just so you know. So they could be a European citizen, but living in the United States, it doesn't impact them, okay? So if you're an online entrepreneur and a marketer based outside of the EU, you've got to comply with the GDPR when interacting with or collecting data from the people within the EU, okay? And this is where things get complicated, okay? And there's some instances where it doesn't apply, but we're not going to get into that right now, okay? So here are the principles. Okay, here's the 6 principles of GDPR. Here's the pillars. Okay, pillar number 1. What it says is data shall be proposed lawfully, fairly, and in a transparent manner. Okay, so in other words, you have to be upfront about what you're collecting the data for. Okay, so transparent. So hey, opt in to my list, get my lead magnet, and I'm going to use this information for, and then you got to tell them what it's for. Okay, number 2, data shall be collected for specified, explicit, and legitimate purposes. So number 1 is it should be processed lawfully, fairly, in a transparent manner. And number 2, it should be collected for specified, explicit, and legitimate purposes. It means you can collect data without explaining how you're using it, and those purposes have to be legit. So you can't collect any data without telling them how you're going to use it, and those purposes have to be legit. Number 3, data processing shall be limited to what is necessary for the purpose. So, if you're collecting an email, and for the purpose of that is to give them your lead magnet, then you can only use that email for that purpose, for giving that lead magnet. So you can't take the email to give them the lead magnet and then put them into some kind of marketing sequence without you disclosing that and without them giving you permission. Number 4. Data shall be accurate, kept up to date, and corrected, okay? So that doesn't really apply to us, okay? That's more Google and Facebook and the analytic people of the world. Number 5, data shall be kept so it identifies a person no longer than necessary, okay? So you can't keep data any longer about people forever if there's no reason to keep it. So if they opted in to get your little lead magnet, okay, and then you've given them permission, you told them that you're going to get the lead magnet plus you're going to send them 5 videos, and then they said, nope, I don't want the 5 videos, then you're not allowed to keep that person in your email database any longer than what's necessary. So in other words, after you give them the lead magnet, then you got to remove them from your database, okay? Number 6, data should be processed in a manner that ensures appropriate security. Okay, so you have to take reasonable steps to protect the data, and we sort of already have this because we use SSL certificates, especially if you're on the ClickFunnels platform. So you should be good with that. Most of you don't personally store the information; you use a third-party software, and they are typically compliant. Okay, so now how will you need to change the way that you collect email addresses from potential leads in your marketing effort? Okay, now once again, this is all from Dr. Klink, this intellectual property lawyer. This is not for me. What he says is the only lawful basis for adding someone to your marketing email list under the GDPR would be consent. Okay, and the GDPR requires that consent be freely given, specific, and unambiguous. Now watch this, okay? This is important, okay? This is going to be something you're going to need to do on your opt-ins. Now, I've contacted ClickFunnels, a couple of the higher admins at ClickFunnels that I know. I personally contacted them, and they told me that by May 25th, by the time this thing rolls out and it's legal, that ClickFunnels will be 100% GDPR compliant. In other words, they'll have the options for you to be able to put in your opt-in forms to make them GDPR compliant, but it's only going to impact those that you create now moving forward. So you're going to have to go retrofit all of your former opt-in. Okay, so here's what it would look like. So we must get a separate consent to add them to our marketing. Okay, so you can't require them to give this consent as a condition for getting your freebie. So if you're going to give them a lead magnet, okay, so you get your little freebie that you're going to give them, okay, and you say, put your email address here so I can send you the freebie, you're going to have another box that they're going to have to check that says, that they're giving you consent to enter their marketing list. And if they don't give that to you, you're not allowed to put them in your list, but you still have to give them your freebie, because the freebie no longer can be given as a condition for putting in somebody's list. Does that make sense? So they can actually give it. Now this works great for me because I do the opt-in as optional approach. Okay, so opt-ins are always optional for me, so this doesn't impact me. For those who use the give method, you know that's the way we do it. You have to sell products on the benefits of your list to get them to voluntarily sign up. Okay, not just as a requirement to get your lead magnet, freebie, or webinar registration. Okay, so you have to tell the prospects, okay, when you join my list, here's the benefit to you, and then they can voluntarily sign up. Okay, and so in other words, it can't be linked to them purchasing something. Okay. Now, some of you may be asking, does this only impact people moving forward? And the answer is no. According to Dr. Klink, this new consent applies to every single person in your list. And if you can't show that you have the right of consent from people who are already on your list and to whom the GDPR applies, then you're no longer allowed to email them beginning May 25th. So I'm going to give you some tips and tools that Amy Porterfield gives that I think are really genius and you should do, okay? And I'll give you those in just a moment. Remember, consent must be specific and unambiguous, okay? See what else. Okay, here's an interesting one. Getting consent for multiple things or in the course of some other interaction is going to be really, really hard, okay? You're going to need what's called standalone consent. So in other words, so if you get the email for the lead magnet, okay? So you take the email, you put them in your list, and they get the lead magnet. Now you want to send them a 5-part video sequence, okay, via email. Okay, you've already told them what they're going to do in the list, but it seems like, according to these rules, that they're going to have to give you additional consent in order for you to send them those emails, okay? Now, that's the gray zone. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. But according to this lawyer, he thinks that, okay? And he also says you're not allowed to add a checkbox and prohibit the delivery of the lead magnet. We've already talked about that, okay? So, question, can I send nurture sequence after someone opts in for my lead magnet under GDPR? He says it's not crystal clear, but there's a good argument for allowing you to send a nurture sequence after someone downloads your lead magnet. Okay, that would be called expanded processing, and that is when you take action after initial action. But he says factors to consider when whether it's okay or not is this. One, the link between the purpose of collection and the purpose for expanding processing. Context in which the data was collected, nature of the personal data, consequences of expanding that process. So in other words, the consequences might be getting a few emails from you. So if you opt in, this is what's going to happen. And then existence of appropriate safeguards. So in other words, here's what we're doing to protect your data. Okay, so you gotta sort of be upfront about all that. And this is really big because so many of us are just used to building a list and sending out broadcast emails. And what he's saying is you got to have a lot of consent now for that. Okay. Now, I've got some more I want to talk about how do you preserve your existing list and get compliant in just a minute. But here's what I want to tell you. Great marketers, this is not an issue for them because great marketers only want people in their list that want to be in their list. Okay, and great marketers nurture their people along, give helpful content, and the people in there want to be in there, so you're not going to have any issue. Nobody's going to turn you in. Nobody's going to complain if you're doing it this way. This is really to protect you, and I actually think that this is going to separate the men from the boys right here. I think that the cream of the crop, some of us, our best marketers, are going to rise to the top, and those who are wannabes, those who are spammers, those who are scammers, they're going to be discarded. Okay, so if you're good, your stuff is good, people want it, you're going to have no problem. If your stuff sucks, and you're trying to scam people, you're trying to rip people off, well, you're going to have complaint after complaint after complaint. So just FYI. So here's what I would do, okay? So what I would do is I would start immediately by creating 2 lists in your database, okay? One is you should put a list for non-European Union subscribers, okay? Because none of this even impacts them. And then create a list of people that are from the EU and anyone that you don't know, and treat them as if they are. Okay, and then I would segment them. I'd create 1 list for non, 1 list for, okay? And then what Amy recommends is you're going to re-engage with the subscribers from your EU and those who are unknown, okay, before May 25th. So in other words, you're going to send them a multiplicity of emails, okay? The results of your re-engagement campaign aren't going to be great, okay? You want to figure out how you can keep people on your list without getting a new consent, okay? From the non-EU list, you can continue communicating with them just like you've always been, okay? If you have people that have opted in cleanly to your newsletter, to your list, you can probably put them in the OK category. These people have given you consent to receive your marketing emails, okay? Now, here's what she says about running an engagement campaign. She says, before you send the consent emails, first deliver extra value consistently. So in other words, start sending at least 1 extra email every week until May 25th. Value, 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 value. Then, after that, then send an email asking for consent. So you may want to send, between now and then, you may want to send 8 emails or 7 emails, okay, 2 a week, between now and then adding value, and then on that 8th email, ask for consent, okay? And only to those you have to send to. You don't have to send it to everybody, only send it to those people in the EU, okay? And make sure that you have a system set up so that when someone does consent, you're taking them off the special EU non-consent list and moving them to a confirmed consent list. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute on ClickFunnels, okay? It's pretty simple, okay? You want to send multiple consent emails and make them enticing. Pay close attention to the subject lines, okay? Or blatant subject lines might work really well, okay? The challenge is you want to get people to open these consent emails, okay? The only goal of the re-engagement campaign is to convince people to give you this consent, okay? So you really want to make sure that that it does. So here's Dr. Klink's suggestions to preserve your existing list, okay? He says, build goodwill by delivering amazing value. Create your list of targets from whom you need new consents, and then run an engagement campaign to the list of people who need fresh consent. Okay, pretty simple. It's not so difficult. Okay, so what would somebody asked him, what would a workaround look like? What he said is you can use lead magnets to get their name and email, and then try to sell them on joining your list at some point in your funnel that you're allowed to have without getting further consent. That's pretty good. He said there's 4 touch points to consider. He goes, number 1, you need to think about your opt-in page. Checkbox or drop-down menu, okay? You need a sandwich page, like a one-click upsell page. You got to think about that. Delivery email itself. Okay, you got to think about that, and you have to think about it in your lead magnet itself. Okay, and in the article I'm going to share with you, he gives you all kinds of tips and tricks on what to do. He gives you where to put the policy. He gives you all kinds of things. It's an incredible article, an incredible interview. So I'm going to just give you this whole thing. Now remember, I didn't make this up. This is Amy Porterfield's. This is Dr. Klink. So let me get to some questions that you guys have, and then we're going to go. This quality is good. Hi, Chad. What's up, Ancho? What's up, Kathy? Sabrina says, yes, we've been working on that for some time. Awesome, Sabrina. Shane says, what's up, Chad? What's up, Tribe? Jeff Hall, we already answered that one. Sabrina says, I believe it's best for every entrepreneur concerned or not for now to be GDPR compliant. It's not a big deal to do it, and it's better to be prepared. Absolutely. I actually think that your conversion rate is going to go way up when you become GDPR compliant, because you're only going to have the people who want to be in your list, so I think your conversion rate is going to go way up. So I love this. Shane put some articles in here. Steve put some articles in here. Thank you, guys. Yeah, absolutely. Kathy says, it just seems like you're going to get higher quality leads. Absolutely. Sylvia says, how can you tell who is from EU? You can't do that from an email address. In that article that I send you, Sylvia, you can see that. Okay, he shows you some ways to do that. You can probably tell that by their IP address. Okay. Jeff, when does it go into effect in the U.S.? Jeff, there's not a rollout date for the U.S. right now. We know it's coming. We just don't know when it's coming. Okay, we're a lot more strict. You're going to have a lot more people fighting against it here in the United States, and so I don't know when it's coming. But I guarantee you that there's going to be lobbyists everywhere saying that that's a violation of our constitutional rights. So it's probably going to get stuck in litigation for a while. Okay. Sabrina says, exactly, Kathy, less but better quality. So good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Let's see what my other room says. What's up, Rita? What's up, Michelle? What's up, Brandy? Brandy says, it reminds me of all the Canada laws. Yeah, there's lots of them. Joe says, no, you also need to be able to delete all data you collect, all data. Yes, from people in the you need to be able to delete all data. You're right about that. Rita says, GDPR is European, but as long as the client customer lead carries a European passport, the law applies as far as collecting your info anywhere in the world. Rita, that's not what I'm reading. Okay, what I'm reading is it applies to people who reside in the EU or even visit the EU. Anybody who is opting into your list from their internet space, then it would require that. Okay, so it doesn't require it if they are in the United States. Okay, at least that's what I'm reading. Okay, but I may be wrong, but that's what this Dr. Klink says, and he's sort of the authority on this, so I'm going to rely on him. This would be a great checklist. Brandon, I'm going to send you that checklist in a minute, okay? Amy Porterfield put one together. Michelle says the spammers will disappear. Charles says another issue is cookies, Facebook pixels, and Google Analytics. I've heard these need to be opt-in as well. For EU, they will need. What's going to happen, Charles, is it's not going to necessarily be opt-in. You got to let them know what's happening, and they got to give you consent. So no more surprises, okay? We could create a reverse squeeze page, and when asking for email, just tell people the idea of why they should accept it. I love that, Sergio. I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this really long article in here, and then I'm going to show you how to segment real quick. I don't have a lot of battery life left, so I'm only going to do this for 5 minutes, and I'm going to show you how to segment. If I can get this in there. I'm going to show you how to segment this, okay? So, oh, shoot, I can't. I'm not on, I can't show you how to segment. Well, I'll have to show you that at another time when I'm on something where I can share my screen. But guys, this is GDPR. I want you to take it seriously, okay? And just see what happens, okay? Now, if you guys have been following the give method, we do what's called the optional opt-in. The optional opt-in is when you offer a lead magnet, and right there, you just tell them, hey, listen, this lead magnet is optional. You don't have to do it. But if you do it, here's what I'm going to do with your information. Here's how I'm going to be able to help you. If you don't want to take my lead magnet anyway, but God bless. And what we're finding is I've got about 4 students who do that, and out of those 4 students who do that, their emails have gone down, but their conversion rate has like quadrupled, okay, because the people in that list are the ones helping them. So I think the GDPR just probably watched our online summit and said, hey, Chad's been teaching this for a while. Let's just adopt it internationally. So I think that's probably what happened. But